Right, ladies, gents and others, this video is about the Terratrencher, which is a digging attachment that gives you a little slot trench and is powered by a chainsaw. Quite a big one. So for digging a trench, for say putting in a cable, such as for electrified stock fencing, or putting in the base of herpetile fencing, your first weapon of choice is a Ditchwitch with a trenching attachment on it. If you can't get into part of the site because access is restricted and you're not obviously trying to dig in solid rock, then this is your next best option before you go on to hand digging. But bear in mind that because you have got this chain which has multiple bearings in it, you're burying it in dirt which is abrasive, you're going to get a lot of wear very quickly. So this is fairly frail, and this is basically to introduce this machine and how you care for it on site. These are the tools you will need: ordinary chainsaw spanner, flat blade end, socket or an 18mm spanner, preferably single hex, 13mm spanner, and a 6mm Allen key and a scratch brush. You'll also need some lubrication. This stuff is ideal because it is biodegradable and it's also fairly easy to spray on. And the way you do it is simply like that. Cover the whole of the chain and do that little and often. No point in soaking it once in a blue moon. The idea is to make sure that you try and get some lubrication into all these little bearings all the way around. This is the way the chain goes on. So if you have to change the chain, if you look at it this way round, you'll see that it digs in, moves around this way and pushes it into the center, so away from the edges. You would think it would be the other way around. If you look at the profile of the chain, you see this is the front, that is the rear with this notch in it. And if you look at this one, this is a new one, you can see that it's never sharp, so you don't have to sharpen this chain. If these get short, it gets even less efficient. So this chain, as you can probably gather, is rather slack. So you maintain your tension here, and this is where you need the 18mm socket. So you have to slacken these, and then you basically hold the thing up like this from this end and tension the chain manually that way. There is no chain tensioner like on an ordinary chainsaw. I'll show you why. Under this cover, which you'll need your flat blade attachment to undo, I've loosened this already, is this drive chain here, which goes back to a sprocket. Let's pop this off. Undo this thing, drop the down spanner. Barrels are working one-handed. So in place of your chain drive sprocket for a chainsaw, you've got an ordinary sprocket which goes straight on the splines and attaches as per an ordinary chain sprocket. Got these wear buffers on here. If they wear out, stop using the machine. They're bright green to make it easy for you to check them. This bit here, you can see this bit and that bit, this is tensionable as per a chain. And you basically need a little bit of slack here. Let's tighten this back up and show you. Sorry about the noise of the rain. Right, I'll do this off camera and come back. Right, we've put it back together. That's about the correct play, about 1 centimetre in this longest run here. This needs to be lubricated, as it says here. Lube chain with spray lube. So it's this stuff, and you just spray it on like that, making sure to cover the whole of the chain. And as with the main digging chain, little and often, so possibly daily with this, although the digging chain, you need to do it much more frequently than that. These two Allen caps here, they're high tensiles. Those are the things which hold the whole of this digging attachment, which weighs a ton, to the saw via this plate. So if they work loose, the whole of this thing wobbles about on the end of the chainsaw. It can damage itself and can damage the saw. If you look here, use my Allen key, there's a great big burr. And that's where this has worked loose in the past. At the moment these are tight. And the way you check the tension of those, got elves next door and they're really noisy, is to take this off, and then your 6mm Allen key goes in here. And at the same time, if you look in here, although it's dark, you can see where the Allen keys protrude through, the Allen box protrudes through. You tighten up these nuts. Unfortunately, this is a very poor design. This one is so close that you can only get this end of your spanner on when it's in the right orientation. So it's very difficult to tighten it up. This one's got a bit more movement, and you can get both ends of the spanner on, and you can see it's got a lock nut on it, and the lock nut is a nylock. This needs to be checked at least daily. While we're this way up, you can see here, you don't need to fill this machine with chain oil. So it says here, do not fill, and this thing has been blanked off with silicone. You do not need chain lube. Chain lube does nothing. There is no chain oil pump. I'll show you this chain again when it's correctly tensioned, and I'll put the thing back together. The other thing to maintain is the air filter. So exactly the same as on a 362. Take the cover off. So it says here, clean filter daily, and also read that. Use chain wax on drive chain, so that means basically chain lubricant. And if you're working in dusty conditions, you need to clean the pre-filter at least at each fueling. And this is the pre-filter here. This is the filter. And you can see this filter is actually in 4 parts. This is the pre-filter. You can take that right off, and then on somewhere clean and flat, you can just knock it out. Inside, now let's take this off. Let's plop that down there. Then we can use both hands on here. Let's see if this comes out in a minute. That comes off. That's the pre-filter. You can knock it out. This is actually clean. I've just cleaned it. But inside, you've got another element. You've got a retainer, which is that, and you've got this foam element as well. If this foam element never turns up dirty, That means you're getting dust, so fine bits of rock and sand through this filter, through the pre-filter, and that can go down into the inlet tract and into the machine, and that will wear it and kill it extremely quickly. So maintenance of this filter is extremely important. This is how it should look all the time. So I'll put that back together, and then we can get this thing set up so it's right to run, and I'll show you it at that stage. So back together, this is what it should look like. This does flop over like that, it's supposed to do it. That's the chain. You can see it's a different colour, it's got lube on it. As I say, little and often, and you can see it's not bagging right the way off the bottom of the bar. You should be able to spin the chain just with one hand, like that. So that's it. Terratrencher, maintenance little and often, otherwise you will kill it. And read this bit on the back. Thank you very much.